Sophia Bennett had 3 rules she lived by. Don't bring strangers home. Don't get involved in other people's problems. Don't trust anyone who might hurt you. She broke all 3 rules in one night. The man was sitting in the alley behind her apartment building, soaking wet, shivering in clothes that were more holes than fabric. His hands were raw and bleeding, his face hidden behind overgrown hair and beard, his eyes vacant with the kind of exhaustion that comes from losing everything. "Please," he whispered when she stopped. Just somewhere warm. Just for tonight." Every instinct told her to walk away. She'd been hurt before. Trusting strangers had cost her everything once. But something in his voice, not desperation, but defeat, made her pause. "One night," she heard herself say. "But if you try anything, I have pepper spray and a neighbor who's a cop." He nodded, too exhausted to even thank her. What Sophia didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that the homeless man shivering in her alley was Daniel Ashford, missing CEO of Ashford Industries, worth $8.7 billion, presumed dead for the past 3 months after his private plane disappeared over the Pacific. And in exactly 12 hours, her life would never be the same again. Sophia Bennett had learned the hard way that kindness was expensive. At 27, she'd already paid the price more times than she cared to count. The ex-boyfriend who'd stolen her savings, the friend who'd used her as a free therapist then vanished when Sophia needed support, the family members who only called when they wanted money. So she'd built walls. High ones. She kept her head down, did her job as a social worker, went home to her small apartment in Brooklyn, and minded her own business. Except tonight. It was 11:47 p.m. on a freezing November night. Sophia had just finished a 16-hour shift at the crisis center. 2 domestic violence cases, 1 attempted suicide intervention, and a teenager who'd run away from an abusive foster home. She was exhausted, emotionally drained, running on coffee and willpower. The rain had started around 10 p.m. and hadn't stopped. By the time Sophia got off the subway and walked the 3 blocks to her apartment, she was soaked despite her umbrella, her feet aching in her worn work flats, her bag heavy with case files she'd need to review before tomorrow. She almost didn't see him. He was tucked into the alley between her building and the bodega next door, barely visible in the shadows. Just another homeless person in a city full of them. Sophia had learned, taught herself, to look past them. Not because she was cruel, but because she couldn't help everyone, and trying would break what was left of her heart. But something made her stop. Maybe it was the way he was shivering, not the slight trembling of someone cold, but the violent shaking of someone on the edge of hypothermia. Maybe it was how he'd curled into himself, trying to preserve warmth that wasn't there. Maybe it was that even in the darkness, she could see his hands were bleeding, raw from exposure. Or maybe it was just that she'd spent 16 hours trying to help people, and one more didn't seem like it would make a difference to her exhaustion level. "Hey," Sophia approached cautiously, maintaining distance. "Are you okay?" Stupid question. Obviously, he wasn't okay. The man looked up, and even through the overgrown hair and beard, Sophia could see his eyes. They were blue-gray, like a storm over the ocean, and they held such profound exhaustion that it made her chest ache. "I'm fine," he mumbled, the words slurred with cold. "Just resting. You're going to die of hypothermia if you stay out here." Sophia knelt down, keeping a safe distance. "There's a shelter 6 blocks." "Full," he interrupted. "Already checked. All of them." Sophia knew this was true. November was when shelters filled beyond capacity, cold enough to be dangerous but not cold enough for the city to open emergency warming centers. She should walk away. Should give him the blanket she kept in her car, which was parked 8 blocks away because street parking in Brooklyn was a nightmare, maybe some money for food, and consider her good deed done. Instead, she found herself asking, "When did you last eat?" The man seemed to think about this. "Tuesday, maybe?" "No, Monday. Got a sandwich from from the church on 5th. Today was Saturday. Come with me, Sophia said before she could talk herself out of it. The man looked at her with something like suspicion. Why? Because you're going to die out here, and I've had a really long day and don't want someone's death on my conscience. She stood up. I have a couch, some food, and a bathroom where you can warm up. One night. Tomorrow, I'll help you find proper resources. Deal. I'm not. He started, then seemed to give up. You shouldn't trust strangers. I don't. But I'm also not going to let someone freeze to death 20 feet from my apartment. Sophia pulled out her phone. I'm texting my neighbor right now, letting him know I'm bringing someone inside. Marcus is a cop. If you try anything at all, he'll be here in 30 seconds with a gun and no sense of humor. Understand? The man nodded slowly. I understand. Good. Can you stand? He tried, but his legs gave out. Sophia caught him. He was heavier than he looked, solid muscle under the ragged clothes, and helped him to his feet. He was tall, probably 6'2", which made supporting him awkward since Sophia was only 5'5". Lean on me. My apartment's on the 2nd floor. Can you make stairs? I can make it, he said, his voice gaining a bit of strength. Thank you. Thank you. Getting him up the stairs was an ordeal. He was weak from cold and hunger, his movements uncoordinated. Twice he nearly fell, and both times Sophia had to use all her strength to keep them both upright. Her apartment was small, a studio with a separate bathroom, barely 400 square feet, but it was warm and dry and infinitely better than a freezing alley. She got the man settled on her couch, then turned up the heat and grabbed every blanket she owned. Don't move, she ordered. I'm getting you some dry clothes and food. He nodded, already wrapped in blankets, still shivering. Sophia rummaged through her closet and found an old hoodie and sweatpants that had belonged to her brother before he'd moved to California. They'd probably fit the homeless man. Her brother was tall too. She knocked on the bathroom door she directed him toward. I'm leaving clothes outside the door. There are towels in the cabinet. Take a hot shower, not too hot, you don't want to shock your system. Okay, came the muffled reply. While he showered, Sophia made soup, canned chicken noodle, nothing fancy, but hot and nourishing. She also made sandwiches, heated up some leftover pasta, and put out fruit, crackers, cheese, basically everything edible she had. She texted Marcus next door. Asterisk brought a homeless man inside to warm up. Watching him closely but wanted you to know. If you don't hear from me in 30 minutes, check on me. Asterisk. Marcus replied immediately. Asterisk, are you insane? Want me to come over? Asterisk. Asterisk, no. I think he's harmless. Just cold and starving. But thanks. Asterisk. Asterisk, keeping my phone on loud. Any trouble, you scream. Asterisk. Sophia smiled slightly. Marcus was a good neighbor. The shower ran for 20 minutes. When the bathroom door finally opened, Sophia barely recognized the man who emerged. Clean, he looked. Different. Younger than she'd thought. Maybe mid-30s. The beard was still there, but washed it was more neat than scraggly. The overgrown hair, pushed back from his face, revealed strong features, sharp cheekbones, a straight nose, that striking blue-gray eyes. Even in her brother's old clothes, there was something about him that didn't quite fit the image of a homeless person. His posture, maybe. Or the way he moved, despite the weakness, with a kind of unconscious confidence. Sit, Sophia gestured to the small table where she'd laid out the food. Eat slowly. Your stomach won't handle a lot after going days without food. He sat obediently and stared at the spread. His hands trembled as he reached for the soup. Thank you, he said again, his voice thick. You didn't have to. Eat first. Talk later. He ate like a man starving, which he was, but with strange restraint, taking small bites, pausing between them, clearly trying to follow her advice about going slowly. It reminded Sophia of someone who'd been trained in self-discipline, which seemed odd for a homeless person. She sat across from him with her own bowl of soup, watching him carefully for any signs of aggression or danger. But he just ate quietly, methodically, his focus entirely on the food. After he'd finished 2 bowls of soup, a sandwich, and some fruit, he finally looked up at her. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. I've been on the streets for a while now. Most people look through me. Or past me. You're the first person in weeks who's actually seen me as human." Sophia felt uncomfortable with gratitude. Everyone deserves basic dignity. You were dying of exposure. It's not heroic to have basic human decency. It's rarer than you think. He wrapped his hands around a mug of tea she'd made. "My name is Daniel. Daniel Smith." The pause before his last name was noticeable, but Sophia didn't push. Lots of homeless people used fake names for privacy or safety. Sophia Bennett. Social worker, which explains my terrible life choices like bringing strangers home. She said it lightly, but meant it seriously. Social worker, Daniel repeated. That explains a lot. You're used to helping people. It's my job. Not at 11 p.m. in a freezing alley. That's more than a job. Sophia shrugged, uncomfortable again. You can sleep on the couch tonight. Tomorrow, I'll help you find resources, shelters with availability, maybe a program that can help you get back on your feet. I know the system pretty well. You're very kind. Daniel was watching her with an intensity that made her nervous. Not threatening, but assessing, maybe. But you should be more careful. Taking in strangers is dangerous. I know. That's why my neighbor cop friend knows you're here and I have pepper spray within arm's reach. She didn't mention that the pepper spray was actually in her bedroom and probably expired. Don't make me regret this. I won't. Daniel's voice was firm. I promise you, Sophia, you have nothing to fear from me. I would never hurt someone who showed me kindness. There was something formal about the way he spoke, something that didn't quite match his appearance. But Sophia was too tired to analyze it. Good. Because if you do, Marcus really will shoot you, and I'll help him hide the body. She stood up. I'm going to bed. Bathroom's there, kitchen's obviously here, couch is yours. Don't steal anything because I literally have nothing worth stealing. And tomorrow, we'll figure out your next steps. Sophia, Daniel said as she headed toward her bedroom area, separated from the studio by a folding screen. Why did you help me? Really? She turned back. He deserved honesty. Because I've been where you are. Not homeless, but broken, lost, invisible. And when I was drowning, someone reached out a hand. It saved my life. She paused. Pay it forward, I guess. That's all we can do. Daniel's expression shifted. Surprise, respect, something deeper. Then I owe you more than you know. You don't owe me anything. Just don't make me regret this. That's payment enough. She went to bed but didn't sleep for a long time, very aware of the stranger in her living room, wondering if she'd just made a terrible mistake or somehow, impossibly, the right choice. What she didn't know was that Daniel Ashford, CEO of a Fortune 500 company, was lying on her couch thinking the exact same thing. Except he was wondering how to tell this extraordinary, kind, fiercely independent woman that he wasn't who she thought he was. And that revealing the truth might destroy the first genuine human connection he'd had in 3 months. Or possibly ever. Sophia woke up to the smell of coffee. For a moment, still foggy with sleep, she thought she'd imagined last night. The homeless man. The rain. The decision that went against every self-preservation instinct she developed. Then she heard movement in her kitchen. Sophia bolted upright, grabbing her phone and the expired pepper spray from her nightstand. She crept around the folding screen that separated her sleeping area from the rest of the studio. Daniel was at her stove, cooking. He'd found her apron, the one with "World's Okayest Cook" printed on it that had been a gag gift from a friend, and was wearing it over her brother's borrowed clothes. Her tiny kitchen was filled with the smell of eggs, toast, and coffee. "What are you doing?" Sophia asked, lowering the pepper spray but not putting it away entirely. Daniel turned, not startled. "Making breakfast. I hope that's okay. I wanted to do something to thank you, and cooking is one of the few skills I have that doesn't require money." "You can cook." "Surprisingly well, actually." He gestured to the table, which he'd set with her mismatched plates and the cloth napkins she'd forgotten she owned. "Scrambled eggs, toast, and coffee. Nothing fancy, but it's hot." Sophia stared at the table, then at him. "Where did you learn to cook?" Something flickered across his face. Hesitation? Someone important to me taught me. A long time ago. The food actually looked good. Professional, even. The eggs were perfectly fluffy, the toast golden brown, and the coffee smelled far better than the instant stuff she usually made. "You made this with what I had in my kitchen?" Sophia sat down cautiously. "You had more than you think. Eggs, bread, butter, some herbs that were hiding in the back of your fridge." Daniel served her, then sat across from her with his own plate. "I hope it's okay that I went through your kitchen. Normally I'd say that's creepy, but you're a homeless person I brought home last night, so I'm not sure normal rules apply." Sophia took a bite of the eggs. They were amazing, light, seasoned perfectly, clearly made by someone who actually knew how to cook. "Okay, these are really good. Where did you say you learned to cook?" "I didn't really." Daniel was watching her eat with an expression that was hard to read. "But I've always enjoyed it. When you have nothing else, cooking can be meditative. Grounding." They ate in surprisingly comfortable silence for a few minutes. Sophia kept studying him, trying to figure out what was bothering her about the whole situation. It wasn't that he was dangerous. She'd developed good instincts about that in her work. It was something else. He didn't quite fit the profile of someone who'd been on the streets long term. His hands, while raw and wounded on the surface, didn't have the deep calluses and permanent damage she usually saw. His teeth, visible when he ate, were straight and well maintained. Even his speech patterns were too educated, too refined. "Daniel," she said carefully, "how long have you been homeless?" He set down his fork. "About 3 months. And before that? Before that, I had a very different life." His voice was careful. "One that I lost through circumstances beyond my control." "What kind of circumstances?" Daniel looked at her directly, and there was something in his eyes that made Sophia catch her breath. "Intelligence. Pain. And truth. If I told you," he said slowly, "you wouldn't believe me. And it might put you in danger." "Danger?" Sophia set down her own fork. "What are you mixed up in?" "Nothing illegal, I promise you that. But complicated. Very complicated." He ran a hand through his still damp hair. "I know I'm being cryptic. I know you deserve better than vague answers after you saved my life last night. But the truth is stranger than you'd believe, and telling you might make things worse. Try me. I'm a social worker. I've heard pretty much everything." "Not this." Daniel's smile was sad. "But I can tell you some truths. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not running from the law. I'm not mentally ill, though I probably should be given what I've been through. I ended up on the streets because I lost everything in a single day, and I've been trying to figure out how to rebuild ever since." "Lost everything how?" "An accident." One that people think killed me. Sophia felt cold. You're supposed to be dead. According to the world, yes. According to me, I've never felt more alive than right now, eating breakfast with someone who helped me without knowing who I was or what I could give her in return. That's really cryptic, Daniel. I know. I'm sorry. He stood up, collecting their plates. I should go. I've imposed enough, and you've been more than kind. If you can point me toward those resources you mentioned. Wait. Sophia stood too. You can't just drop a bombshell like, people think I'm dead, and then leave. That's not fair. Life's not fair. Daniel was washing dishes now, which was surreal. A homeless man who cooked breakfast and did dishes. But I've learned that the hard way, haven't I? At least tell me your real last name. It's not Smith, is it? His hands stilled in the soapy water. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, no, it's not Smith. Then what is it? Daniel turned to face her, water dripping from his hands, his expression conflicted. If I tell you, your life will change. Possibly not for the better. Are you sure you want to know? Now I definitely want to know. He dried his hands slowly on a dish towel. Her dish towel, Sophia thought absently, wondering when her life had become so surreal, and then met her eyes directly. My name is Daniel Ashford. I'm the CEO, was the CEO, of Ashford Industries. 3 months ago, my private plane crashed into the Pacific Ocean during a storm. No survivors were found. The company held my funeral 2 weeks later. Legally, I'm dead. Sophia stared at him, then laughed. Okay, that's a good story. Creative. But it's not a story. Daniel pulled out his phone, an old model, cracked screen, but it still worked. He pulled up a news article and handed it to her. The headline read, Billionaire CEO Daniel Ashford presumed dead in plane crash. The photo showed a man in an expensive suit, clean-shaven, hair perfectly styled. But the face, the bone structure, the unusual blue-gray eyes, it was him. Oh my God, Sophia breathed. You're serious. I'm serious. But how? How are you alive? How did you survive a plane crash? Why are you homeless? Why hasn't anyone recognized you? The questions tumbled out. Daniel took his phone back. The crash happened during a storm. The plane went down in the ocean. I was thrown clear when the cabins separated. Spent 2 days in the water before washing up on a small island off the Washington coast. By the time I made it to civilization, I was already declared dead, my assets frozen, my company in transition. I had no ID, no money, no way to prove who I was without alerting. He stopped. Alerting who? The people who caused the crash. Daniel's voice went hard. It wasn't an accident, Sophia. Someone sabotaged my plane. And if they knew I survived, they'd finish the job. Sophia sat down heavily. This was insane. Absolutely insane. But she was looking at the article, at his face in the photo, at the man standing in her kitchen, and the resemblance was undeniable. So you've been living on the streets to hide? To survive. To figure out who I can trust and who tried to kill me. To plan my next move without tipping off whoever wants me dead. Daniel sat across from her again. I know this sounds like a conspiracy theory. I know you have no reason to believe me. But it's the truth. If you're really Daniel Ashford, you're worth. The article says $8.7 billion. Was worth. Now I'm worth exactly nothing, legally speaking. His smile was bitter. Dead men don't own companies or bank accounts. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked. Because you deserve the truth after what you did for me. And because... He hesitated. Because I haven't told anyone the truth in 3 months. I've been completely alone, unable to trust anyone, unable to be myself. And last night, you showed me kindness without knowing who I was. That means something. Sophia's mind was racing. If this was true, and God, it seemed impossible but also somehow believable, then she'd just brought home a billionaire CEO who was supposed to be dead and who was apparently being hunted by someone who wanted him that way permanently. You said telling me might put me in danger, she said slowly. It might. If anyone finds out I told you, they might come after you to keep you quiet. Or use you to get to me. Daniel's expression was pained. Which is why I should leave. Now. Before anyone sees me here or connects you to me. Wait. Sophia held up a hand. Just wait. I need a minute to process this. She stood up and paced her small apartment. A billionaire. A dead billionaire. A conspiracy to murder said billionaire. A plane crash. 3 months of homelessness. It was completely insane. It was also, somehow, not the craziest thing she'd heard as a social worker. Okay, she said finally. Let's say I believe you. Which I'm not saying I definitely do, but let's say hypothetically. What's your plan? I've been trying to gather evidence about who sabotaged my plane without revealing I'm alive. It's slow going when you're homeless and have no resources. Daniel's voice was measured, controlled. But I'm getting close. I think I know who did it and why. I just need proof. And then what? And then I come back from the dead, expose them, and reclaim my life. If I survive that long. This is insane. I know. You realize I should probably call the police, or a psych ward, or someone. You could. But I don't think you will. Sophia looked at him, really looked at him. At the exhaustion in his eyes that went bone deep. At the sincerity in his expression. At the way he held himself, even in borrowed clothes, with a kind of dignity that suggested he was telling the truth. I need proof, she said. Something more than a news article and your word. Daniel nodded. Fair. What do you need? I don't know. Something only the real Daniel Ashford would know. Something that hasn't been made public. He thought for a moment. I have a scar on my left shoulder blade. Exactly 3 inches long, from a surfing accident when I was 16 in Maui. No one knows about it except my family and the doctor who stitched it. It's not in any medical records because we didn't want press finding out. My mother was paranoid about tabloids even then. That doesn't prove anything. You could have heard that somewhere. Then look. Daniel turned around and pulled up the back of his shirt. There, on his left shoulder blade, was a thin, 3-inch scar. Exactly where and what he'd described. Sophia felt her worldview shifting. Oh my God. You're really him. I'm really him. Daniel pulled his shirt back down and turned to face her. And I've just made you complicit in the biggest secret in the corporate world. I'm sorry, Sophia. I should have kept lying. Should have left before you could figure it out. But you didn't. No, I didn't. His voice was soft. Because for the first time in 3 months, someone treated me like a human being. And I didn't want to lie to you. They stared at each other across a small kitchen, the weight of his revelation hanging between them. So what happens now? Sophia asked. Now I leave, and you forget you ever met me. You go back to your life, and I go back to surviving on the streets until I can prove who tried to kill me. That's your plan? Just keep living like this. What choice do I have? Sophia thought about it. About this man who'd lost everything. About how the universe had put him in her alley at the exact moment she was walking home. About how every instinct said she should walk away, protect herself, stay safe. And about how she'd never been very good at following her own self-preservation instincts. You could stay here, she heard herself say. Daniel's eyes widened. What? Stay here. Just for a little while. Until you figure things out. You need a safe place, and I need. She trailed off. What did she need? I need to know I didn't just kick a billionaire CEO back onto the streets, I guess. That would make me a terrible person. Sophia, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. There are conditions, though. Name them. You help around the apartment. Cooking, cleaning, whatever. You don't steal anything or hurt anyone. You keep a low profile. No going out during the day where people might recognize you. And... She paused. And you tell me the truth. All of it. No more secrets. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then, why are you doing this? I honestly don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm too compassionate for my own good. Or maybe... Sophia shrugged. Maybe I believe everyone deserves a second chance. Even supposedly dead billionaires. I could be lying about all of this. I could be dangerous. You could be. But I don't think you are. She didn't know where this certainty came from, but it was there. Besides, I Googled you while you were in the shower last night. If you're lying about being Daniel Ashford, you're the world's best con artist. And if you're telling the truth, you need help. I can't pay you back. Not until I reclaim my life, and that could take months. Maybe longer. I don't want your money. I want... What did she want? I want to help. That's what I do. I help people. So let me help you. Daniel looked at her with an expression so filled with gratitude and wonder that it made her chest tight. You're extraordinary. Do you know that? I'm really not. I'm just someone who's had a weird morning. Sophia stood up. So do we have a deal? We have a deal. Daniel stood too and extended his hand. Thank you, Sophia Bennett. I promise you won't regret this. As they shook hands, Sophia hoped he was right. Because she just agreed to harbor a supposedly dead billionaire CEO in her tiny Brooklyn apartment. And that was either the best or worst decision she'd ever made. Only time would tell which. The first few days were awkward. Daniel Ashford, billionaire CEO of Ashford Industries, didn't know how to be a normal person. He'd spent his entire adult life surrounded by assistants, servants, and employees who anticipated his every need. The mechanics of everyday life, laundry, grocery shopping, cooking without premium ingredients, were foreign to him. Watching him try to figure out how to use Sophia's ancient washing machine was both painful and hilarious. Why are there so many settings? Daniel stared at the dial like it was written in ancient hieroglyphics. What's the difference between delicate and gentle? Aren't those the same thing? Just use normal cycle with cold water, Sophia called from her desk where she was reviewing case files. It's not rocket science. I've overseen rocket science projects. This is harder. Despite the culture shock, Daniel adapted surprisingly quickly. By day 3, he'd mastered the washing machine, figured out her archaic TV remote, and even started a small container garden on her fire escape because fresh herbs improve everything. What surprised Sophia most was how helpful he was. He cleaned without being asked, cooked meals that were far better than anything she could make, and somehow made her cramped studio feel more organized and livable. He also worked. Every day, he spent hours on his cracked phone and Sophia's old laptop, researching, documenting, building his case against whoever had sabotaged his plane. I think it was my CFO, Daniel said one evening over dinner. Homemade pasta that he'd made from scratch because apparently billionaire CEOs knew how to make pasta from scratch. Your chief financial officer? Why would he want you dead? Because I discovered he'd been embezzling. Not much, a few million here and there, hidden in offshore accounts and fake vendors. but enough that he'd go to prison for a long time when I exposed him. Daniel twirled pasta around his fork with the kind of precision that suggested he'd eaten at countless expensive Italian restaurants. I confronted him 2 days before my plane went down. Told him I was going to the board. And then mysteriously, my plane's maintenance records were falsified and the hydraulic system failed mid-flight. Do you have proof? Not yet. But I'm getting close. There's a maintenance worker who filed a complaint about being forced to sign off on work he didn't do. He's scared, but he might talk if approached the right way. How are you going to approach him when you're legally dead? I'm still figuring that out. Daniel's expression was frustrated. That's the problem. I need to be alive to investigate, but being alive puts a target on my back. And now on yours, since you're harboring me. Still not thrilled about that part, Sophia admitted. They'd fallen into a routine. Sophia went to work. Daniel insisted, said her not showing up would raise suspicions. While she was gone, he stayed in the apartment, researching, planning, and apparently cooking elaborate meals because I need to do something with my hands or I'll go crazy. When Sophia came home, they'd eat together, talk, share their days. It was weirdly domestic for two people who barely knew each other. It was also, Sophia was slowly realizing, kind of nice. You know what's strange? She said one night as they did dishes together, him washing, her drying. Before you showed up, this apartment felt empty even when I was in it. Now it feels, I don't know, like a home. Daniel glanced at her. You live alone by choice? Not entirely by choice. More like necessity. My ex-boyfriend. She trailed off. Let's just say he wasn't good for me. After we broke up, I decided I was better off alone. How long ago? 2 years. I haven't dated since. His loss. The simple statement, said with such certainty, made Sophia flush. You don't know me well enough to say that. Don't I? I know you're kind. I know you're brave. You brought home a stranger who could have been dangerous. I know you're dedicated. You work 16-hour shifts helping people who probably don't thank you enough. I know you're real, no pretense, no game playing, just genuine compassion. Daniel handed her a wet plate. Anyone who let you go was an idiot. He didn't let me go. I left him after I found out he'd stolen $12,000 from me to fund his startup, that was actually just him gambling on sports betting. Sophia dried the plate with more force than necessary. He was very apologetic when I caught him. Said he'd pay me back. He didn't, obviously. You should sue him. With what money? Lawyers are expensive, and he spent everything I had. She put the plate away. It's fine. I learned my lesson. Don't trust people. Don't let anyone close enough to hurt you. Keep your walls up. And yet you brought me home. Moment of weakness. Don't get used to it. But the truth was, Sophia was getting used to having Daniel around. To coming home to a clean apartment and hot meals. To having someone to talk to about her day. To the way he listened, really listened when she vented about difficult cases. Tell me about today, Daniel would say, and Sophia would find herself sharing stories she usually kept locked inside. The teenager who'd finally agreed to go to rehab. The domestic violence victim who'd found the courage to leave. The foster kid who'd aged out of the system with nowhere to go. Daniel listened to all of it with focus and empathy that surprised her. You're carrying a lot, he observed one night. How do you not burn out? Who says I'm not burning out? Sophia laughed. But it wasn't really funny. I'm one bad day away from a breakdown most of the time. But the work matters. These people need help. So I keep going. You need someone to take care of you while you're taking care of everyone else. That's what therapists are for. Which I can't afford, so instead I just bottle everything up like a healthy person. She was being flip, but Daniel saw through it. When's the last time someone did something nice for you? Just for you, not because they wanted something. Sophia thought about it. I honestly can't remember. Then let me. Daniel stood up from the couch. Stay here. Don't move. He disappeared into the tiny kitchen area and returned 10 minutes later with a mug of hot chocolate, real hot chocolate. Not the instant powder kind, with whipped cream and cinnamon on top. Where did you get the ingredients for this? Sophia accepted the mug, surprised. I've been slowly buying things when you send me to the bodega. Building up a proper pantry. You can't live on ramen and canned soup forever. He sat back down beside her closer than he usually sat, she noticed. Drink. It's good for stress. It was delicious. Rich and creamy and exactly what she needed after another exhausting day. Thank you, Sophia said softly. You thank me for hot chocolate after you literally saved my life and gave me shelter. The math doesn't work out there. Maybe we're even then. We're not even close to even. But I'm working on it. They sat in comfortable silence, Sophia drinking her hot chocolate while Daniel read a book he'd found on her shelf, a battered mystery novel she'd read 3 times. This was nice, Sophia thought. Dangerously nice. She was getting too comfortable with having him around. Too used to his presence. She shut down that train of thought immediately. This was temporary. Daniel would eventually reclaim his life and return to his billionaire world. And she would go back to being alone in her small apartment, which was exactly how things should be. Except the thought of it made her chest ache in a way she didn't want to examine too closely. 2 weeks into their arrangement, Sophia admitted to herself what she'd been denying. She was developing feelings for Daniel Ashford. It was a terrible idea for about 17 different reasons. He was a billionaire CEO, technically dead, but still. She was a broke social worker, barely making rent. He would eventually return to his real life. This was all temporary. Getting attached was stupid. She was getting attached anyway. It was the little things that did it. The way he'd learned her coffee order perfectly. 2 sugars, extra cream, hot but not scalding. How he'd bought her favorite cookies from the bodega and left them on her desk as a surprise. The way he listened to her work stories with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions and offering insights that were actually helpful. And the way he looked at her sometimes, like she was the most fascinating person in the world. Tell me about your family, Daniel asked one evening as they cooked together, him teaching her how to make risotto, which required more stirring than Sophia thought any food should require. Not much to tell. My parents died when I was 22. Car accident. I have a brother in California who I talk to maybe twice a year. That's about it. I'm sorry. That must have been incredibly hard. It was. Still is, honestly. I was in college when it happened. Had to drop out to deal with everything. Funeral costs, settling the estate, which was just debt, really. Never went back. Is that why you became a social worker? Sophia stirred the risotto thoughtfully. Partly. After they died, I was lost. Angry. Felt like the universe had singled me out to suffer. Then I volunteered at a crisis center and realized how many people were suffering worse than me. Kids in abusive homes. People with nowhere to go. I couldn't fix what happened to my parents, but I could maybe help someone else not feel as alone as I felt. That's beautiful. That's trauma response disguised as purpose. But she smiled when she said it. What about you? What's your family situation? Daniel's expression went complicated. My father built Ashford Industries from nothing. Made his first million by 30, first billion by 45. He was brilliant, ruthless, and had impossibly high standards for everyone, especially me. He died 3 years ago. Heart attack. Which meant I inherited the company at 30, with no real preparation because he never thought he'd die young. Daniel took over stirring when Sophia's arm got tired. My mother remarried within a year, a man I suspect she'd been seeing while my father was alive. I have one sister, younger by 5 years. She's currently traveling the world, finding herself, which really means spending her trust fund on expensive hotels and posting inspirational quotes on Instagram. Do they think you're dead too? Yes. I saw footage of my funeral. My mother looked appropriately sad. My sister looked annoyed that she had to fly back from Bali. Very touching. His voice was bitter. That must hurt. Not being able to tell them you're alive. Does it make me a terrible person that I haven't really missed them? That being dead has been almost freeing. Daniel added more broth to the risotto. My whole life was scheduled, managed, optimized. Every conversation was a negotiation. Every relationship was transactional. Being homeless, being nobody was horrible, but it was also the first time in my life no one expected anything from me. Except survival. Yeah, except that. He smiled slightly. And then you came along and raised the bar. Now I have to make risotto. Poor you, learning actual life skills. I'm not complaining. This is the most real I've felt in years. Daniel ladled risotto onto plates, Sophia's chipped ones, but he arranged the food like they were at a 5-star restaurant. Dining with a beautiful woman who's genuine and kind. Making food with my own hands. Having conversations about things that actually matter. I forgot life could be like this. Sophia's brain short-circuited on beautiful woman, and took a minute to catch up. You think I'm beautiful? Daniel looked at her like she'd said something absurd. Obviously. You're stunning, Sophia. How is that even a question? I'm really not. I'm average at best. Brown hair, brown eyes, nothing special. You have no idea how you look, do you? Daniel set down his spoon and turned to face her fully. When you're focused on a case file, you get this tiny furrow right here. He touched the space between her eyebrows gently. And you bite your lip while you think. When you laugh at something genuinely funny, your whole face lights up. When you're tired after a long shift, you have this vulnerable expression that makes me want to. He stopped himself. Want to what? Want to take care of you. Want to make sure you're okay. Want to. He was very close now, close enough that Sophia could see the exact shade of blue-gray his eyes were, see the slight stubble on his jaw because he'd stopped shaving a few days ago. Want to do things that would be inappropriate given that I'm a guest in your home. What kind of things? Sophia's voice came out breathier than intended. Things like kissing you, touching you, showing you that you're extraordinary, not average, making you understand that you deserve someone who sees how incredible you are. Daniel. But I won't. Because you've been hurt before, and I'm not going to take advantage of your kindness. I'm not going to be another person who uses you. He stepped back, breaking the moment. The risotto's done. Let's eat. Sophia's heart was hammering. She wanted to tell him he wasn't using her. That she wanted him to kiss her. That she'd been thinking about it for days now, wondering what his hands would feel like, whether his lips were as soft as they looked. But she didn't say any of it. Because he was right. This was complicated. He would eventually leave. Getting more involved was a terrible idea. They ate the risotto in charged silence, both very aware of what had almost happened. After dinner, as Daniel washed dishes and Sophia dried, she finally said, "For what it's worth, I think about it too." His hands stilled in the soapy water. About what? Kissing you. Touching you. All of it. She kept her eyes on the plate she was drying. I know it's a bad idea. I know you're leaving eventually. I know getting involved would be stupid. But I think about it anyway. Sophia. I'm not saying we should do anything about it. I'm just saying you're not alone in feeling whatever this is. Daniel turned to face her, water dripping from his hands. You're killing me. You know that, right? Good. Then we're even. They stood there, tension crackling between them, both wanting to close the distance and both knowing they shouldn't. I should go to bed, Sophia said finally. Early shift tomorrow. Right. Yes. Bed. Good idea. But neither of them moved. Sophia, Daniel said quietly, when this is over, when I reclaim my life and deal with whoever tried to kill me, I'm coming back for you. If you'll have me. Because you're the first real thing that's happened to me in longer than I can remember. And I'm not going to let you go without a fight. That's a big promise from someone who's legally dead. I keep my promises. Always. We'll see. Sophia went to bed that night, achingly aware of Daniel on the other side of her folding screen. So close. Too far. Completely off limits. This was going to end badly. She knew it. But she was in too deep now to protect herself. All she could do was hope that when Daniel Ashford came back from the dead, he would remember the broke social worker who'd given him shelter when he had nothing. And that maybe, impossibly, he'd meant what he said about coming back for her. Everything fell apart on a Tuesday. Sophia was at work when she got the call. Daniel's voice was tight with controlled panic. They found me. You need to leave work right now and go somewhere public. Don't come home. What? Who found you? What's happening? My CFO. He has people watching your building. They must have tracked something I did online, or someone recognized me. I don't know. But they're here, and if you come home, you'll be in danger. Sophia's blood ran cold. Where are you? Still inside. They haven't come up yet. I think they're waiting to see if I run. Stay there. I'm calling the police. No. If police get involved, this becomes public. My survival becomes news. And then everyone I care about becomes a target. His voice dropped. Including you. Especially you, because you've been harboring me. I don't care about that. I care. I won't let you get hurt because of me. She could hear sounds in the background. Footsteps, maybe. Voices. I need to go. Just stay away from the apartment. I'll contact you when it's safe. Daniel, don't hang up. The line went dead. Sophia stood in the crisis center break room, phone in her shaking hand, trying to decide what to do. Every instinct said to run home, to help him, to do something. But he'd told her to stay away. She compromised. She left work, made up an excuse about a family emergency, and went to her building, but stayed across the street, watching from the coffee shop where she'd bought him clothes and supplies using her own money over the past 2 weeks. From this vantage point, she could see 2 men in a black sedan parked outside her building. They were trying to be subtle but failing. Even from here, Sophia could tell they were dangerous. The way they held themselves, the way they watched everyone who entered or exited. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Asterisk, I can see you from the window. Leave. Asterisk. Sophia texted back. Not until I know you're safe. You're going to get yourself killed. Asterisk, then we'll die together. Very romantic. Asterisk. This isn't funny. Asterisk, I know. But I'm not leaving you. Asterisk. There was a long pause. Then, you're the most stubborn woman I've ever met. You say that like it's a bad thing. Another pause. Then, asterisk, I'm coming out. When I do, those men will follow me. Once they're gone, go to the apartment and grab the file folder hidden under the couch cushions. Inside is all my evidence against Richard Pearson, my CFO. Take it to the FBI field office on Federal Plaza. Ask for Agent Jennifer Martinez. She's been investigating corporate fraud at Ashford Industries for months. Tell her everything. She'll know what to do. Asterisk. What about you? Asterisk. I'll lead them away from you. Away from here. Asterisk. Daniel, you can't. Asterisk. I can and I will. You've done enough, Sophia. More than enough. Time for me to protect you for a change. Asterisk. Asterisk. I don't need protecting. I need you safe. Asterisk. Asterisk. Then trust me. Please. I've been evading security and danger my entire life. I know how to disappear. Asterisk. Asterisk. And then what? You just vanish? I never see you again. Asterisk. The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. Asterisk. That's up to you. Once I give the evidence to the FBI and they arrest Richard, I can come back from the dead. Reclaim my life. But that life is complicated. Full of responsibilities and expectations and public scrutiny. I can't ask you to be part of that. So after I'm alive again, if you want nothing to do with me, I'll understand. I'll respect it. I'll disappear from your life and let you move on. Asterisk. And if I don't want you to disappear? Then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret bringing home a homeless stranger in the rain. Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. Asterisk. Don't you dare die out there, Daniel Ashford. We have unfinished business. Asterisk. Is that what we're calling it? Among other things. Asterisk. I'm coming out now. Stay hidden. I love you, Sophia Bennett. I should have said that sooner. Asterisk. Sophia's breath caught. Before she could respond, she saw movement at her building entrance. Daniel emerged, no longer looking homeless but very obviously trying not to look like a billionaire CEO. He'd borrowed her dead father's old coat, she'd kept it for sentimental reasons, and a baseball cap pulled low. But his posture, his walk, the way he carried himself. The men in the sedan noticed immediately. They exchanged words. Then one got out and started following Daniel on foot while the other started the car. Daniel walked quickly but not running, heading toward the subway. The man followed. The sedan crawled along behind. Sophia watched until all three were out of sight, her heart in her throat. Then she ran to her apartment building. The file was exactly where Daniel said, under the couch cushions, thick with documents, photos, financial records. Sophia grabbed it and her overnight bag, threw in some clothes and her laptop, and left. She went straight to the FBI field office. Asked for Agent Martinez. Was made to wait for 30 minutes that felt like hours. Finally, a woman in her 40s, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense, came to get her. You asked for me? Agent Martinez? My name is Sophia Bennett. I need to report a conspiracy to commit murder and corporate fraud. And Sophia took a deep breath. And I need to tell you that Daniel Ashford is alive. Agent Martinez's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Come with me. Let's talk in private. Over the next 3 hours, Sophia told the story. All of it. The night she'd found Daniel. Learning his identity. Harboring him. The evidence he'd gathered. The men watching her apartment. Agent Martinez listened, took notes, examined the files. Finally, she said, "This is a lot to process. But if even half of what you're telling me is true, and this evidence holds up, we have enough to arrest Richard Pearson and potentially bring down a major corporate fraud operation." What about Daniel? He's in danger right now. Do you know where he went? No. He led the men away from me and then just vanished. Then there's not much we can do except hope he's as good at evading danger as he thinks he is. Agent Martinez's expression softened slightly. For what it's worth, if Daniel Ashford is alive and has been gathering this evidence, he's braver than most people give him credit for. The business world thought he was just a spoiled rich kid who inherited his father's company. This suggests otherwise. He's not what anyone thinks. He's better. You care about him. I love him, Sophia said, the words coming out before she could stop them. I know it's crazy. I've known him less than a month. But I love him. Then let's make sure we bring him home safe. Agent Martinez stood. Ms. Bennett, I'm going to need you to stay in protective custody until we arrest Pearson. If his people know about you, and they probably do by now, you're a loose end they'll want to tie up. What about Daniel? If he contacts you, you tell him to come in immediately. We can protect him. We can expedite his legal resurrection. But he needs to trust us. He doesn't trust easily. How would that even work? You live in penthouses and go to galas. I live in a studio and wear second-hand clothes. Our worlds don't overlap. They do now. Because you're in my world whether you like it or not. My survival is news. The woman who helped me is news. There are already reporters trying to find out who you are, where you live, what our relationship is. Sophia felt cold. I didn't think about that. I did. Which is why I've already assigned security to you. And why I've arranged for you to take a leave of absence from work, with full pay, until the media frenzy dies down. You can't just rearrange my life. I'm protecting you. The woman I love is about to be hounded by press and possibly threatened by Richard's associates who weren't arrested. What was I supposed to do? Maybe ask me first. They glared at each other. Then Sophia started laughing. What's funny? Daniel demanded. We're having our first real fight. Like an actual couple. We are an actual couple. At least, I hope we are. Even though I'm a broke social worker and you're a billionaire? Especially because of that. You're the only person in my life who wants nothing from me except me. Do you know how rare that is? How precious. Daniel stood and closed the distance between them. I'm not asking you to change who you are. I'm asking if you'll let me be part of your life while I figure out how to be part of this world again. We'll figure out the logistics. We'll build something that works for both of us. But please, Sophia, don't walk away because this got complicated. Everything about this has been complicated from the start. And we've handled it so far. He took her hands. I know I'm asking a lot. I know my life comes with baggage and attention and complications you never signed up for. But I'm not letting you go without a fight. I can't. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Sophia looked at their joined hands. At this man who'd been homeless 3 weeks ago and was now back to being a billionaire, but who still looked at her like she hung the moon. Okay, she said finally. We try. But I have conditions. Name them. I'm keeping my job. I'm keeping my apartment. I'm not becoming some kept woman who exists only in your world. Agreed. And you have to actually talk to me. Not make decisions for me. Partners communicate. Agreed. And if this doesn't work, if the pressure gets too much or we realize we're too different, we end it cleanly. No drama. No making it worse than it has to be. Daniel's expression went serious. I won't agree to that. What? If this gets hard, we work through it. If we're different, we find compromises. If pressure builds, we face it together. I'm not planning an exit strategy, Sophia. I'm all in. The question is whether you are. Sophia thought about the past 3 weeks. About bringing home a stranger. About risking everything to help someone she barely knew. About falling in love with a man who was supposed to be dead. She'd already gone all in. Might as well admit it. Okay. All in. But if you ever try to arrange my life without asking me first again, I'm punching you harder than I did today. Noted. Daniel pulled her close. For the record, you punch surprisingly hard for someone so small. I contain multitudes. You certainly do. He kissed her again, softer this time, like a promise instead of relief. When they broke apart, Sophia was smiling despite everything. So what happens now? She asked. Now I have about 1,000 things to deal with. Press conferences, board meetings, damage control. But first, I'm taking you somewhere safe where we can actually talk without lawyers and FBI agents interrupting. Where? Does it matter? I guess not. As long as she was with him. They left the FBI building together, Daniel's hand firmly holding hers, stepping into camera flashes and shouted questions from the press that had gathered outside. Mr. Ashford, how did you survive? Who is this woman? What's your relationship? Will you press charges against Richard Pearson? Daniel ignored them all, focusing on getting Sophia to the waiting car. Once inside with the doors closed, the noise cut off. That was intense, Sophia said. That's my life now. Our life, if you're really doing this with me. I said I was all in. Then hold on. Because it's going to be a wild ride. Sophia took his hand as the car pulled away. Bring it on. I've handled harder things than press and galas. Like what? Like falling in love with a homeless man who turned out to be a billionaire. Pretty sure I can handle anything after that. Daniel laughed, really laughed, and pulled her close. And as they drove toward whatever came next, Sophia realized that sometimes the best decisions are the ones that seem completely insane. Like bringing home a stranger in the rain. Like trusting your heart over your head. Like believing that love can bridge any gap, even one measured in billions of dollars. You're nervous, Sophia observed as Daniel adjusted his tie for the 4th time in as many minutes. I'm not nervous. You're totally nervous. It's adorable. I'm the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I don't get nervous. You're about to meet my therapy group. You're nervous. Daniel stopped fidgeting and turned to face her. Okay, maybe a little nervous. These people are important to you. I want them to like me. They were standing outside the crisis center where Sophia worked, about to attend her support group for people who'd experienced homelessness. It had been Daniel's idea. He wanted to give back, wanted to understand the experience beyond his own 3 months on the streets. They're going to love you, Sophia assured him. You're genuine, you listen, and you understand what they're going through in a way most people don't. I had 3 months. Some of them have had years. And you're using your resources to change that. The Ashford Foundation's housing initiative is already helping hundreds of people. That had been one of Daniel's first acts after reclaiming his life, establishing a foundation focused on homelessness, affordable housing, and job training. He'd put his experience on the streets to work, creating programs that actually addressed the root causes of homelessness rather than just treating symptoms. Ready? Sophia asked, squeezing his hand. Ready. They walked in together, Sophia leading him to the community room where her group met weekly. About 15 people were already there, ranging in age from early 20s to late 60s, each with their own story of loss and survival. Everyone, this is Daniel, Sophia introduced him. He's here to listen and maybe share his own experience if he's comfortable. The group welcomed him cautiously. They'd learned not to trust easily. But as the session progressed and Daniel shared his story, the plane crash, the 3 months on the streets, the kindness of a stranger who'd changed his life, the walls came down. You really slept in alleys? One young woman asked. I did. 4 weeks. It's terrifying and dehumanizing and you never feel safe. But you had money waiting for you, an older man pointed out. You knew if you could just prove who you were, you'd get it all back. That's true, Daniel acknowledged. I had hoped that most people in that situation don't have. Which is why I think the system is broken. No one should have to live like that. No one should be invisible. You're really putting your money into fixing it? Another participant asked skeptically. I am. Because I know what it feels like to be looked through instead of looked at. To be treated like you don't matter. I can't fix everything, but I can help. And I'm going to. After the session, several participants approached Daniel personally. They shared contact information, talked about potential job opportunities, asked about housing programs. Sophia watched him interact with each person like they mattered, because to him, they did. You were amazing, she told him later as they walked to her apartment. Yes, she'd kept it, despite Daniel buying a penthouse. Some nights she still preferred her tiny studio to his luxury high-rise. I just told the truth. You gave them hope. That's everything. Daniel stopped walking and pulled her close. You gave me hope first. Everything else follows from that. They'd found their rhythm over the past 6 months. Daniel ran his company and managed his foundation. Sophia kept her social work job, though she'd cut back to 4 days a week so she #the man in the rain. When compassion reveals truth.